Welcome to this training video, which will demonstrate how to check your AT-1200 powder feeder for leaks after a cleaning. Required to perform this operation is a pressure test kit available from Thermoc. Shown here, it includes a multimeter, pressure transducer, and various plugs, connectors, and cables. Before starting, with the power off, verify that there is no pressure showing on the top gauge. This is done by turning off the supply gas. Next, we will turn the powder feeder on and flip the plasma switch to the HVOF mode. This closes the dump valve, allowing the unit to be pressurized. Place the plug on the powder outfitting so that when pressure is applied, it will be maintained within the unit. Set the multimeter to volts DC, millivolts. Plug the pressure transducer into the multimeter and set it to PSI. Depress the black button, choosing English for units of measurement. At this point, the multimeter should be reading 0.0. If it is not reading 0.0, there is a zero adjustment on the transducer that you can set with a screwdriver. For ease in viewing, set the meter and transducer on top of the powder feeder as shown. With the pressure transducer's tube connected, attach the fitting adapter to the powder feeder as shown here. Now connect the carrier gas line to the unit. As we are about to introduce gas to the unit, it is important that we are operating at the correct pressure. With an AT-1200, the operating pressure is approximately 80 psi. Note that excessive gas pressure can damage the powder feeder, damage measuring equipment, cause erratic performance and/or injury. Never operate any powder feeder at gas pressures higher than the rated value. Open valves slowly to ensure that they are working properly and make sure fellow workers are clear from the testing area. We need to set the carrier gas to 80 pounds per square inch using the multimeter to tell us when it's set correctly. Once it's within range, plus or minus 2 psi, you can close the ball valve on the pressure testing adapter. This will hold the pressure inside the powder feeder. Once closed, allow the gas to settle in the feeder for 1 minute. Observe the reading on the multimeter to see if it is still within the proper range. If it is sealed properly, any pressure loss should be less than 0.3 pounds per square inch over a 15-minute period. Note that if the heater blanket is on, it may take considerably longer for the pressure to settle after turning the heater blanket off. If the pressure drops more than 0.3 pounds per square inch over that 15 minutes, the powder feeder's seal is compromised. In this situation, perform the following steps. If a leak is indicated, use a liquid leak detector composed of deionized water and an agent that will produce sustained bubbling when it comes into contact with gas leaks. For our demonstration, we will begin with the lower connection of one of the tubes. Apply the leak detector. On these tubes, if bubbles are present indicating a leak, use a 9/16 inch wrench to tighten the fitting until the bubbles disappear. Test again to ensure that no bubbles are there. Make a note of the current pressure and wait 15 minutes. If the pressure changes less than 0.3 pounds per square inch in 15 minutes, this is considered acceptable. If the pressure drops more than 0.3 pounds per square inch, continue to look for leaks. If, after checking the external connections like tubes, the meter still shows a drop in pressure, other areas must be checked. Here we can see where the canister meets the upper housing. Notice that the small red O-ring is visible. There are 2 of these O-rings. If bubbles appear at either O-ring, remove the canister assembly and reinsert these small O-rings. Again, wait 15 minutes while watching the multimeter to verify that it has not dropped more than 0.3 pounds per square inch. If it has not dropped more than that amount, the hopper is suitable for use. Before looking inside, there are a few more external checks. Test the seams between the upper and lower housing and at the pop-off valve. There are various other spots on the outside of the feeder that should be tested as well. This diagram is from the printed manual detailing the spots that should be checked for leaks. If time is needed to study the diagram, you can pause this video at any time. If it is still showing a leak, but none are found on the outside of the unit, we will need to look inside the cabinet. Opening the cabinet on the AT-1200 will shut off power and relieve pressure because the dump valve will exhaust. To reapply power, locate the knob shown here, being careful not to touch any internal components, and pull out. This will power the unit, at which point we can reapply carrier gas pressure, remembering to close the ball valve on the pressure testing adapter. We can now apply the leak detector fluid to both connectors on the powder out tube. If bubbles appear, follow the previous procedure, tightening and observing pressure for 15 minutes. Another point to test is the bearing. Open the main unit and tilt it so the canister is pointing downward. Notice the paper towel behind the shaft. This is to catch any excess liquid. Apply the liquid around the main shaft as shown here. If bubbles appear, remove the canister assembly and perform maintenance on the bearing or replace it. While here, you can also test the internal connection of the dump valve. Once testing is completed, we can remove the test equipment. Begin by turning the carrier gas off. Next, open the ball valve on the pressure testing adapter. Relieve the gas pressure by switching the unit from HVOF mode to plasma mode. Once all gas is released, remove the plug from the bottom of the unit. Verify that the ball valve is open and remove the carrier gas line once the pressure is depleted, then remove the pressure testing adapter and the gauge. Finally, turn the power off via the switch on the bottom of the main unit. This completes the leak check procedure for the Thermach AT-1200 powder feeder.